From Ticker, you're watching She's the Boss. Here's Jules Brooke.
Welcome to She's the Boss, the TV show that's all about women in business and the extraordinary things that they're doing. My name is Jules Brooke and I'm the founder of Handle Your Own PR, so I'm a woman in business as well. We have a great sponsor on the show, Havana Home. Havana Home actually have got a pop-up shop in the St Ives shopping centre that I said I'd mention today, so just to let you know. But I'm extremely excited today because I have Monica Meldrum from Whole Kids with me, and she has just done so many amazing things that I'm really interested to find out what she's done. But let me ask you, have you ever thought, I'd love to get a food product out on the market? Have you got a recipe that everybody tells you is great? Do you go to the supermarket sometimes and think, yuck, I don't really like the choices that are available, I could do much better? Because that's pretty much what Monica did. So I'm just going to throw you to the wolves.
Thank you, Jules.
It's lovely to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks so much.
So, Whole Kids, how did you even get started? Where did it come from?
Well, it came from a trip I took over to Indonesia, where I was with the Department of Foreign Affairs, and I was asked to lead a team of Australians over there to deliver aid to children living in poverty. So I think for me that really was the first seed for Whole Kids, where I was over there with these beautiful children, and we worked on projects to help them. So we had an agricultural scientist, a lawyer, a doctor, a team there, and we had to decide what we could do that was in keeping with the culture and the community to affect their lives. And so we looked at the rice fields, at the irrigation systems, we looked at the doctors, the hospitals, the medical system, and we just kept coming back to these children. And it was monsoon and they were playing in the drains, and it was incredibly dangerous. And over a period of 3 months I lived with a family there.
I just have to stop you for a minute. So what were you doing over there? What was your role? Why were you there examining all these people? And so
it was really a program with the Department of Foreign Affairs. It was an exchange over there to
so you went over for a few months
that's right,
and
to live locally. I spoke the language. I speak Indonesian.
Oh my God, do you? That's amazing. How did you learn Indonesian?
Well, as part of my studies, Deakin University had this push into Asia, and so we had to choose a language, and I simply for no other reason heard that Indonesian was really easy. So I was doing a business degree. So I got over there, and the children, we were just really taken by them. And over a period of 3 months, I lived with a family in a house, 10 children, a 2-bedroom little house that had no toilet or shower. It was simply a concrete slab with some bamboo walls. And just got to know the families, and we decided in the end the best thing we could do was create a playground and a safe place for the kids to play. So the experience really changed my world and made me question everything. And I came back to Australia, and I did the sensible corporate thing. I was never really happy. I really just was, had this thought that I wanted to make a difference, and I was really interested in health and nutrition. And at the same time, James, my husband, he'd studied an MBA in the US, and he'd studied...
Was he in Indonesia with you as well?
No, he wasn't.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so this was post-Indonesia, and he had studied, when he'd studied in the US, he'd come across companies like Patagonia and Ben & Jerry's, who really were about purpose, who were doing things differently. And we sort of looked at our life and toyed around with ideas. And I think at the same time, I'm one of 6 children, so my brothers and sisters were all having kids, and my nieces and nephews.
But you weren't at that stage?
At that stage,
that's really interesting. I thought it was the kids that maybe had made you have this idea.
It was actually my nephew who he had a severe asthma allergy, and one night I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law, and she was saying, look, it's ridiculous. I go into the supermarket and products are promoted as healthy, but they're completely over-processed, and it's an absolute minefield trying to find things for him to feed him. And James and I, we lived a pretty healthy lifestyle. I had an interest in nutrition and in fitness, and we had a look overseas, and we could see that the organic industry, it was growing.
And not here yet.
Not here
yet. At that stage.
No. And
you've got a lot of company now.
So I talked with a dietitian at the Royal Children's just to understand what some of the issues were around feeding kids. kids, and I met with some organic growers, and just James and I just thought, why not? We came up with a range of products, and from our little house, kind of.
So was it a side hustle at first? Did you
It was
decide?
a complete side hustle.
And you actually and he have run the whole business together, haven't you? So you haven't kind of had to do it on your own. You've had a buddy all the way through.
I've had a buddy, yeah, pretty much all of the way. And I think
But did you? So you resigned from your jobs and set this up?
Not straight away.
Right.
So we'd spend evenings researching, designing logos, coming up with concepts, and just really having a good look at the industry. And then he emailed me at work one day and said, there's this organic expo coming to Sydney. How about we just go for it? So we pretty much had everything ready to go.
Hang on a minute. So you actually planned on exhibiting at the thing, or were you just going to go and watch?
No, we were going to exhibit.
Oh my! I love his get up and go.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was purely a marketing exercise. We thought we need to. This is a really
Let's
big
go and
risk.
suss out whether
we need
there's
to
a
go and
market.
suss out what the response is.
Yeah.
So the night before in the hotel, we're like wrapping artwork around little samples that we had, and built this huge 6x3 stand and used it as an opportunity to basically sample products and talk to parents about our idea. And we were blown away.
Overwhelmed, I bet.
Completely overwhelmed. And we'd said that, that was our stake in the ground. If we didn't go for it, we'd never know. We could always go back to corporate. So we had stores placing orders, kids were interacting with the brand, parents saying there was nothing like it. So we then, that Monday, literally quit our jobs and went, all right, house deposit on the line, let's go for it. And the adventure began.
How good is it resigning when you know you're going to go?
God.
It's such a great feeling, isn't it?
So amazing. In fact, I was travelling a lot in my role, and then, months later, I was travelling with whole kids, and I was sitting at the airport just watching people in their suits, doing what I was doing on a Friday night, the grind, just going, I'm here on my own terms, and I can't wait. Yeah,
that's so exciting. So you and James decided to start it up. How did you go about getting food samples? I mean, did you do that yourself? Did you get it done in a commercial kitchen?
Yeah,
How does that work?
We developed them ourselves,
right.
and then we took them to a commercial kitchen to make up samples.
For the trade show or later? Right.
Yeah, and then we worked with local organic growers, and we worked with manufacturers to find, people who could develop the product for us, but it was a massive investment. So our first little run of juice, we were going to have to order 250,000 units of packaging.
Which has got to be a problem that a lot of people in the food, when you start a food product and you suddenly realise that some of your ingredients only come in massive bulk.
That's right.
What do you do? What did you do?
Well, we had to be sure we had a market first of all, which was the Organic Expo, and we spent some time down at Paran Market with the boys there, Angie and Paul, talking to them about our idea and whether or not they thought it would fly.
Yeah.
And they said, look, absolutely, if you're going to launch the product, bring it in. And so we went down, so it was South Melbourne Market and Paran Market first of all. They had a big organic store there, and walked in that first day with a little box saying to Andy, it's here, we've done it. And he was my first customer. And we still have that check proudly
Did he sell out that day?
Up
Did
on
he
the
sell
wall.
them all?
He didn't sell out that day, but pretty much within a week, and kept going. So it was just finding support for what we were doing was really important, I think, and doing it in a way that, it was a lot of risk, but at the same time, having researched it, having all the feedback, a couple of customers in place, we could confidently go, well, let's roll the dice. Let's give it a go.
And really, it was amazing because, I know I was working a little bit in the parenting industry at that stage, and just seeing this very slow, gradual increase of sort of organic snacks for kids, lunchbox things, and I saw yours growing, and then it just grew and grew and grew. So you've got your samples, you've gone out, you've done it. Where do you go to from there?
So our samples were in our home, boxes and boxes, and we
packaged. Had you done
packaged?
So you did have proper packaging.
We did have proper packaging, and basically went door to door from there. So we had this strategy that we wanted to really be within the health and organic stores, and so we would approach store owners directly. We'd talk to them about our business, and just found we had so much support for the brand, and we still do. Many of them we still know personally. Yeah, and
they'd be very proud of you, I imagine.
Very proud.
It's nice to see someone grow and do something that's good.
That's right, and very supportive in terms of talking to us about what other things customers might be looking for. So building those relationships were really key for us, and doing it slow and doing it in a way that was really, we had the support. We weren't about kind of overnight going into the supermarkets, and we just wanted to make a difference with what we were doing. And I think that gets back to our brand and my time in Indonesia and James's experience, which is we just had this idea if we could create a business that not only contributed directly to children's health, but with the proceeds we were able to fund all sorts of
Well, I was going to say,
projects.
so what did you do? Because obviously it's come out of this very altruistic idea.
Yeah.
Have you gone back to Indonesia? Are you doing anything with those kids?
We started a partnership with Plan International. It's
Great.
the World Food Program in Cambodia, where last year we delivered 500,000 meals to children over there through a breakfast program, and it's an incredible program where the children who would ordinarily drop out of school to work for money go to school, they tend a garden, they take the rations home, and they're given breakfast. So it's enabling them to be educated, and it's a program that is self-sustaining. So Plan, the way they work is through going into country, but creating these projects so that the community can run them themselves. So when we met with Plan, their whole purpose is about social equity for children and equality for girls, and it just really struck a chord. So last year I took my daughter Chloe and her little basketball team over to meet the children at the schools.
Oh, gorgeous.
And it was the first child-led, girl-led visit by an NGO to a project, and I just had this incredible moment where I was standing there at the school gate, and in front of me was my daughter, and it was almost like life had come full circle.
Well, I was going to say, how did it affect her? What was the feedback? It must have just blown her mind in some ways to go over and see I've got boys, and I think they need to see how the rest of the world lives. We are so privileged here.
I know, we're so privileged.
I mean, when you talked about the concrete floor and the small shacks, I've been to so many countries, and I'm sure you have. That is the norm for more of the world than living
really
in a Western style.
Yeah. And I think for us, the trip was about really just broadening their perspectives.
How old is Chloe?
So she's just turned 10.
Oh, so really young.
Yeah, really young.
And so I interrupted you. Tell me, what did she think of it?
She was amazing. On that first day, the little girls held hands and took her into a garden, and she gardened with the girls and boys, and went into the classroom and talked about life in Australia. And that night in the hotel, she said some really profound things. She said to me, "Mummy, we couldn't speak the same language, and it wasn't even body language, but we just knew what each other was thinking." And
isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, seeing the world through their eyes. I think the biggest takeout from the trip was that they saw, so much going on that was so good that, it kind of turned this whole notion of going to a country on its head, where these girls learned so much from their counterparts. It really was a sharing of lifestyles and culture, and
there's just no barriers with young kids, are there? So they just go straight in, accept the people for who they are, and say, "Yep, I'll hold your hand. Let's go and play," or "Let's go and do schoolwork," or whatever. And there's none of that sort of adult inhibition and should I do this, that, or the other? Yeah,
and she took a lot of the learnings from the school garden project back to her own school in Albert Park. So,
right.
Yeah, so it was amazing. It really was.
Oh, that's such a great thing to do. So do you think, as a woman, and I don't want to go too far down that route now because I'm going to grill you on it a bit later, but as a woman setting up your own business, did it make a difference having James with you? Were there times that you came across issues where people weren't taking you maybe as seriously as you would have liked to have been taken?
Absolutely. It really made a difference. I think our skills are quite complementary, and so that was a good thing too, in that we both had, I'm I guess more operational, and we both had each other as a sounding board, and we still do. But I think it took me a little while for me to realise that I didn't need to lean on him. Like I, in my own right, could be a really good businesswoman and kind of knew what I was doing. So I think it's the confidence piece for me. It gets back to going, no, I have this vision, I want to create this business, and I know what I'm doing, and nothing's going to stop me. And there are at times people will defer to him because he's male. That happens without a doubt. But
particularly, I would think overseas as well, where there's sort of less of that kind of egalitarian, women's rights thing that we have in Western countries.
but he is fantastically supportive in putting me forward and being very pro. Women, you know, the majority of our workforce are women, so he's the only man in the business. So
is he?
Yeah, he is right now. So
he must love that.
Yeah.
I bet. So I'm really interested as well. For a lot of people, getting a brand up is part of the way, but actually getting people to know about your brand is really, really hard, particularly if you don't have big budgets. So
That's right.
How did you market the business?
I think one of the hardest things for us is we're just up against this whole minefield of big food businesses who are, you know,
massive.
They're massive. They have massive marketing budgets. They're using all sorts of tactics to, you know, and claims to hook kids and mislead parents. And for us, it was just getting out there and putting ourselves out there. Also asking our customers how we could support them, but equally how they could assist us. And so I think by building relationship, often we would
they would sort of help push the word out as well.
Push the word out.
And then what other kind of marketing were you doing? I mean, other than trade shows, I guess, as well.
Yeah, we were doing a bit of PR. We'd write our own releases and send them out and
Good.
contact people.
Great.
So
I love to hear that.
yeah, doing whatever we could. Trade shows, sampling wherever we could.
Yeah.
What
about social?
That was back in the days before social.
Right.
So this is 15 years ago.
Yes.
But now, absolutely social, and really, you know, talking about the business and what we're doing, and you know, it resonates with people. And I think we have really loyal customers, engaged customers who, you know, love what we're doing and are equally very supportive. So
yeah, which is fantastic. I mean, and it also eggs you on, doesn't it? Just
really
knowing
does.
you have that support behind you. All right, now hold that thought, because I'm going to come back in a minute. We're just going to take a quick break. I want you to think about trying to get your brand into supermarkets and how hard that might be, because we're going to ask Monica all about how she's managed to do it after the break.
This is Ticker.
From Ticker, you're watching She's the Boss. Here's Jules Brooke.
Welcome back to She's the Boss. I'm Jules Brooke, your host, and today I have the most fantastic woman with me, Monica Meldrum from Whole Kids. Now, Whole Kids is a brand that has grown and grown and grown over the last 15 years. I'm very excited to have you here because there'd be a lot of women, I would think, watching that are in that food space or want to be in that food space, because it's something that I think, I mean, I don't want to stereotype us, but I think we all do love food. We're all cooking all the time. So, well, you either love it or you hate it, but if you love it, then trying to get it out and turn it into your career would be a fantastic thing for people to do. So, we started talking about supermarkets. Now, firstly, how do you even get into the supermarkets? How did you go from market stalls and trade shows and stands at South Melbourne Market to getting into Coles, for instance?
So we resisted for a very long time, and I think what we really wanted to do was build our brand in a way that was grassroots, we test the market, we knew we had a good range and we had significant volume initially, so that if we did have those conversations, we'd be able to, we'd heard it was a pretty scary thing.
Yeah, I've heard that too,
Yeah.
that, they pretty much dictate everything and you've just got to go, yes, okay, whatever
right.
you want. So you wanted to go into it in a much more sort of powerful position for the negotiation.
And we wanted to do it really well. So we built up our business. We just had this belief that we didn't want any one business to, have any more than 30% of our total revenue, because it was just too risky.
Really clever. That's one of the
Yeah.
classic things they say in business, isn't it? Don't put all your eggs in one basket,
Yes.
because then if you lose one big client, you could lose the whole business. So,
That's right.
So you'd built it up to a reasonably...
We built it up. We were also a bit nervous because we'd found with all of our very loyal customers, there was a view that if we did go into the supermarkets, then they no longer had a point of difference. So
Right.
we could lose them as well and everything we'd built.
Right.
So it was all about timing for us. So we were approached twice. We'd have meetings. We'd sit in those meetings and we realised that at the time, the timing wasn't right, or when we did the financials, our price point would be so high that it wouldn't do justice to the product. And then,
So were they trying to beat you down on price as well? Like constantly because you hear what they do with the farmers and all the rest of it.
yeah,
I'm just interested.
I think, we're up against some pretty big food brands with big marketing budgets. So invariably the question will come, well, how are you going to support awareness so that people know you're here and can buy
Which I find astounding that that's your job and, excuse me, and not theirs.
Yeah, I think it's about working together with them. But we had this experience where eventually we were contacted by two women who were in the buying role
Right.
at Coles, and they actually purchased our product for their children. So
Right.
they called and said, we think your range is fantastic, just come in and have a discussion. And at that point, they were really willing to sit with us and to talk about our concerns and to develop the products in a way that were true to our brand.
Yeah.
And so over a period of 12 months, we entered discussions where...
12 months of
yeah,
discussions.
it was 12 months
Wow.
of discussions. We looked at concepts. We were concerned about our independent customers and developing a range that was unique, if we were.
So how did you do that? Did you give them their own range?
Yeah, we came up with a range that was unique. And interestingly, it reached the point where we were comfortable and we were to launch in. And we went back to all of our customers and said, just so you know, you will see us enter the supermarkets, but we really value, your support, and we will continue to support you and grow our business with you and assist you.
Yep.
And many of them said, well, why can't we have the product? So
Right.
it kind of worked in a way that we were really true to, giving back the support
Yeah.
that we'd had, and in a way that felt right for us. So we resisted for about 5 years. We then went in and, it was over a period of just, I think discussion, and also as a purpose business, staying true to who we were. So at times it meant, we just had to flat out disagree or say no. There's been certain opportunities in private label or certain channels that we've been approached for that could mean a whole lot of volume and could be really lucrative for the business, but didn't feel right. So it was about us also saying, okay, this could create a whole lot of stress and pressure, coming back to why we just established the business and doing it in a way that was true to...
Yeah, because I hear that one of the biggest challenges with getting into a supermarket is that they'll take the first order. You have to get, obviously, a large order to them. They distribute it. It sells out quickly, and they want the next order really quickly.
Yeah.
And if you can't deliver it, you're dead in the water. So were those sorts of things big concerns for you?
Yeah, there were those concerns, and it was for us doing it in a way that was doing it really well, and we've learned so much from
I
them
bet.
about supply chain, because we really didn't, it's an opportunity and we didn't want to, stuff it up.
Yeah.
We wanted to do it well and to grow the business, and there have been so many learnings along the way, and I think going in and scaling and being a bit bigger has made us do things a lot smarter as well, and so our independent customers have benefited from that.
So talk to me a bit about being a purpose-driven business
Sure.
and how that differentiates you from, say, other supermarket brands.
Yeah, so at the heart of everything we do is about giving back and
Yeah.
affecting change for a healthier,
Which is
happier
a
world
beautiful,
for children.
it's such
Yeah.
a lovely proposition.
Yeah, and I think coming from the corporate world, my last role I was involved in, there was an acquisition of the business I was in, and I was working alongside the CEO to establish a new vision and values for the business, and for me, those values at times didn't ring true.
Right.
And,
Because authenticity is so important.
Yeah, it is, and I thought I can
people can
always
tell.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
And I thought I can always go back to that. And at the heart of what we're doing, James and I honestly believe that we can make a difference through our business. And
So what is your ultimate purpose? What would you love Whole Kids to do as the ultimate purpose is to what?
Well, for us, our purpose is about creating a healthier, happier world for kids. And
Right.
so it's not about the food that we make. I mean, it is. The product that we have, it has to be the most nutritious for children, and the best for the environment. But it's also about how we conduct ourselves in business and how through everything we're doing, we're giving back to create a better world. And I think that became even stronger for us having our own children. We became incredibly passionate, and looking at my little boy Sam, who's 5, when he's in his 20s, the world's going to be an incredibly different place, and that weighs on me as a parent and as a mum. And if there's in any way that through my business I can affect change to assist create a better world and a better future for him and for my daughter, then absolutely I'm going to use everything I can do to do that.
Kind of goes without saying
Yeah,
that you
it
would want to
does.
do that, but it's such a great thing because I think you're expanding now. I know that are you in Woolworths now,
Yes,
or you're
we
about
are.
to be?
Yep, we've launched
So you're in
into
Woolworths now, and I saw that you're planning on going out into Asia Pacific
Yes.
very soon.
So
you'll
we're
get the food
officially-
out to those kids that you were maybe
That's right.
working with before.
So we're officially a national brand, which is great.
Yes.
We're looking at more support for the programs we do. So we get out pretty actively, and we're supporting the climate change protest, and we
all have to. Don't
That's
we?
right.
I mean, gosh,
And-
after this summer.
Yeah, and we got behind the Kids Off Nauru campaign, which was incredible.
Yeah,
As an ambassador business, we saw in a matter of weeks the government turn around and decide that they would take every child off,
Thank goodness.
Nauru. So, through that, we can see that business can be used to affect positive change. And that comes back to we're a B Corporation, a certified B Corp.
What does a B Corp mean?
So
Sorry?
that's really a certification that is all about business being used as a force for good. And it's a validation through all of the, it's right throughout our entire business. We're audited to ensure that
You
we are
comply with
ethical,
their-
sustainable, we're complying with all of their principles. So
You must be so proud. It's so fantastic what you're doing.
yeah, it's a hard slog when you're up against businesses, big businesses that don't feel the same way. But we're just finding now our customers, many of them, just want to know what more there is behind a brand. So
I think there's seismic shifts coming in just about every industry, but you can see it in grocery now. People want organic. They don't want perfect vegetables.
No.
They don't want them wrapped to within an inch of their lives, and they want to know that they're coming from places that are good for the planet, I guess, rather, and
I think
people.
they can see very directly how their purchases can have an impact, and they're thinking about making good choices.
Yeah, especially when I remember when organic first came out. I mean, I guess I'm showing my age, and I don't know whether you remember when organic things first came out and they were like 5 times the price of anything else, and all the supermarkets and everyone was going, there's no way this is going to be sustainable, there's no way it'll happen. But actually people have voted with their feet, haven't they, or with their money, and now we have massive organic aisles in supermarkets.
That's right.
And
I think too, organic growers that we speak to, many of our growers actually were conventional farmers, and as a result of impact of pesticides on their health or what they've been seeing in degradation of the environment, many of them have converted. So it is, there's a groundswell.
I love it. I love all that's happening. Now I want to talk to you about staff. I am very interested to know how you go from being 2 to how many have you got now?
So we've got 12. We're still a really small team.
Okay,
Yep.
so how do you pick people? How did you decide to do your first employee? How did it all happen?
Well, so we had someone that we worked with in a store, Paul, and he was down at the local macro store, and he just loved our brand and everything about it. And I had a coffee with him one day. We realised that we needed help because we were literally out on the road selling, but we couldn't quite afford to have someone on full time.
No,
and
it's that whole working on the business or in the business is such a dilemma for people to know when to make that leap and not kind of kill the business in the process.
Yeah, it totally is. And Paul, I went in to visit him one day to take an order, and he said, I've got some sad news. I'm leaving. I'm going to work for someone else. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't you tell us? You would be amazing in this role, because we were thinking about it. And so over a few coffees over a weekend, we decided that we would employ him, and he came on board, as our first sales rep. So he was someone who was not only skilled but really lived Whole Kids values.
Yeah.
And we've made mistakes, without a doubt. And I think that's where at times we've decided, all right, we are growing as a business, we need to upskill, we need to find people who are highly skilled, but we've perhaps let values slide as a result of that.
Right.
Or we've gone the other way and we've recruited really lovely people who are very values based, but they can't quite make the jump in terms of skill level. And for me, recruiting is part, it's intellectual, but it also comes down to intuition and fit and belief and passion behind our brand. And I think the team I have now are the best team I've ever had. They're incredibly passionate.
Ironically, but
they are incredibly passionate about what we're doing and supporting James and I. And I think knowing also that they're part of something bigger, that we really want to affect change. And
I'm sure it's a fantastic place there to work with you in that kind of an environment where you're trying to make a change. But you did touch on mistakes.
Yes.
And I think it's always really valuable to, if we can, share some of those mistakes and how we overcome them. So have you had any, well, you have. So tell me some of the big sort of issues that have come up that
I think one of the biggest things that happened to us was we landed, so we went and pitched for the Qantas contract, and which was a game changer for our business. And again, we were up against one of the biggest food brands in the world.
Was this before you got into supermarkets?
This was before we got into supermarkets.
Wow, so you're just trying to, as a small supplier, go in and go, you should try something different.
So I was invited to Sydney and to pitch, and I was asked to bring 16 sets of samples, and I had a meeting request for 2 people, but on the plane I just had this thought, maybe they're going to be 16 people in this room. And sure enough, I landed, got into the meeting, I was told the floor's yours. You need to convince us why.
There was just you, by the way, with 16 people.
Yeah, why we should put these products on board. And so I again talked to them about our vision and what it would mean not only to have a brand, to have parents and kids a healthy offering on board, but by supporting a small Australian business, they would really be championing the spirit of Australia, which was their whole philosophy.
Which is actually, I mean, I can see other airlines are doing it now. So it was something that was starting to change, and they decided they didn't want the big mass people.
Yeah.
But you must have been real pioneers in that at that
We were,
stage.
and I left that meeting thinking there's no way we'll ever win this business, but we did. And so pretty quickly we got busy, and then from there we signed up a major chain of stores. There are 150 in Australia. We'd started exporting. It was putting enormous pressure on James and I personally, on our cash flow, on our business. And we went to visit one of our growers up in Meldrum and during the growing season. And while we were there, a terrible storm hit Melbourne, and it took with it our warehouse roof.
What do you mean? The whole roof came off?
The roof came
so
off
did the stock
in the storm.
get ruined?
2/3 of our product was ruined. We couldn't supply for about a month. And
my giddy aunt.
I just had Chloe, so I had this newborn baby, and
so were you feeling a bit emotional as well?
Very emotional.
When I think of what a newborn baby's like.
Yeah, and so we got over that. That was fine.
How did you? Oh, no, go back. How do you get over that?
Well, we had insurance, so that was one thing that was really important.
Right, thank goodness.
We just worked with our customers to say this has happened.
To make that phone call to go, how we said we were going to deliver whatever, we can't do it.
It was really hard, but they were supportive. They were like, "What can we do? As soon as you're back on, let us know." And then I just said to James, "We just need to have a holiday." So we went on a holiday. We took a break. We went up to Queensland. Yes. But while we were there, I had a call from our admin person to say our warehouse, our forklift driver had gone out onto the road and had opened a passing car. So, things were just crumbling before us. And I remember doing the 2 a.m. feed with Chloe thinking, how the hell are we going to survive this? What have we done? We've just thrown everything into this, and but the next day I received this email from a woman who I met actually 6 years later, who had found our product, discovered it on Qantas, and she said that she found our product, and what a blast. Her son could suddenly have something that was on a normal person's tray, that he had severe allergies. He'd been sent to school with baby food in his lunchbox, and he was getting very badly bullied. And, you know, his mum said, I've tried the big food companies, I've contacted them, but basically the answer is no. Just keep doing what you're doing. You know, it's incredible. And
that was it. You just
and
went
that
right.
was it. It was like, oh, you know,
Yeah,
I've got to keep going. But we also had a good friend who was a management consultant who took us out of the business for a day and sat us down and said, all right, why are you doing this? You know, let's start setting some really big goals and big vision for the business. And we came up with our why. For me, it all came back to Indonesia and how we could affect a positive difference.
Change, yep.
Yep. And so we set our purpose, we set our why, and we set a really big goal to have provided 50 million healthier choices by 2020.
Wow.
Which we smashed last
Have
year.
you?
Yes.
Before you hit 2020?
Before we hit 2020.
50 million.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And,
that's huge.
Yeah, and we just went for it. And that purpose piece, those values, we just embedded into everything we did. So whether it was recruiting, whether it was decisions we made, and we still refer to them, and that's kind of our guiding point that we keep coming back to if ever there's a tough decision. So, you know, there are times where it's hard, but I think having that clarity of vision and purpose just keep coming back to it. Yeah.
Really helps, and very inspiring for all the rest of us to watch somebody actually stick to their guns and not be swayed by the money, by the big supermarkets, by anything, just going, no, this is our purpose, which then led you to getting quite a lot of awards.
Yes.
So I think we're going to take a break now, but after that, have you ever wondered how to get a Businesswoman's Award, or what's involved, and what sort of awards you can go? Well, I have to say, when you look at the list of awards that Monica has won, it's amazing. So after the break, we'll come back and I'll find out how she did it.
This is Ticker.
From Ticker, you're watching She's the Boss. Here's Jules Brooke.
Welcome back to She's the Boss. I'm Jules Brooke, and I have a fantastic guest today, Monica Meldrum from Whole Kids. Now, Monica, before the break, I was asking people, because I know I think about it myself, how do you actually get awards as a businesswoman? What's involved, and what kind of awards should you go for? So firstly, can you tell us what awards you have won? Because there's so many of them.
So I think the first one was 2013, was the NAB Women's Agenda Leadership Awards, so the Entrepreneur of the Year. And then Osmumpreneur, St George Banking Group.
I remember going to that event. I saw that one.
Osmumpreneur. 100 Women of Influence, the Westpac AFR Awards.
And now in the Westpac AFR Awards, you're like one of the top 100
Women of Influence. That's right. Australian Organic Business of the Year this year in 2018, and then
and you've had one since the beginning of 2020, haven't you?
Yes,
for the conscious
which is the
entrepreneur.
Conscious Women's, so world-changing women's women to watch, and then Kate Spade's Conscious Businesswomen Award.
And on top
for
of that,
2020.
I know that you went over to, was it America at some stage?
Yes.
Was it with the government or something?
No, that was with Westpac. That was the top 20 business of tomorrow.
Because that was really
So-
interesting, all those sort of posts about the people that you were meeting
Oh,
and the
that was
opportunities
incredible.
that came out of it. So I'll be quiet now. Tell me what it's all done for you, how you
Okay.
did it, and whether it's worth doing.
So I think initially James put me forward for the Women's Agenda Award, and I
Great.
think again it's getting over this thing as a woman that we don't want to speak up and put it out there and be confident about what we're doing. And I think going through the process, regardless of winning the award,
Yeah.
going through the process, you have to take time to reflect to enter these awards and look back at everything you've achieved.
Right.
So regardless of the outcome, the process is fantastic because it really makes you stop and think. And as a small business, you're running 100 miles an hour. It's not like often you take time to sit back and reflect on everything you've achieved. So
Yeah.
I find that that's really worthwhile. Women's Agenda, like with many of the other awards, I found myself in a room of like-minded women who are just so dynamic, who are all doing
Fantastic.
different things. And I think another thing women don't perhaps do particularly well is networking. And
Yeah.
suddenly when you're in a room with like-minded women, it's an incredible
Just opens
feeling.
it all up. Yeah.
And I think too it's about putting yourself out there and paving the way for others. So with Westpac, I was the only woman who was on that trip. And
How many people were on the
so there
out
were
of how
20.
many? Out of 20?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
not
So-
5.
And so this award,
One woman out of
yeah,
20,
yeah.
can I just say?
But to Westpac's credit, the whole award was based on merit.
Yeah.
So it was independently assessed by Deloitte. Gender was removed from it. So, but I did find myself as one woman in a group of 20. And I had this moment where I was in the US, we were at the head offices of Airbnb, and we were told that we would have 20 minutes in the room with the head of safety and trust, who was the ex-chief of staff to President Obama.
Wow.
Security, who I decided at that moment I would sit at the head of the table. We were ushered into this room. There was a big
well
oval
done. I
table.
love it. Yeah.
And I would fire questions at him. And, I realised that I very much had a seat at the table and that I had a lot to contribute, and that being
Good.
a woman, I really should be putting myself
Yeah.
forward and have the confidence to do that. And there's nothing like America for that,
Learning fast.
That's right. And really speaking up about your business and being proud of everything you've achieved. So I think the awards are a fantastic thing to go for as often as possible. And it's a way to get your business out there too, in the absence of advertising or marketing budgets. The PR that comes from many of those awards
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah, and then that kind of drives it forward. And I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine that once you start winning a few awards, you get on the radar of some of the other awards, and before you know it, it's kind of got its own momentum.
Yeah, that's
to an
right.
extent.
Yeah. So I think it's just it's great to be doing that, and it's fun too. It takes you out of the business and thinking about what's
And
next.
new opportunities. I mean, heading off to America with a group of people and getting to meet the head of Airbnb, and you met a whole lot of interesting people when you
yeah.
were over there. It wasn't just Airbnb, was it?
No, it wasn't just Airbnb. We went to the head office of Facebook, and I got some product in the hands of Mark Zuckerberg for his kids.
You didn't get to meet him?
Didn't meet him, but I was adamant
come
about
back-
you need to give him this package.
Did he come back to you and
No,
say
he didn't.
Priscilla loved it? Or?
No, which was a pity. But we did have time with Alan Blue, who is the founder of LinkedIn. And the biggest thing for me
Wow.
was he talked about his time when LinkedIn, there were only 6 employees and they were a little startup. And at one
Hard
point...
to believe that LinkedIn was
I
a
know,
little startup.
very hard to believe. And at one point, things went wrong, so they had to stop. And for a period of 6 months, they shut everything down.
6 months?
6 months to get it
Wow.
right.
Was this before or after you had to close for a month, or had to sort of stop delivering for a month? Because that would have been very rewarding for you, I would have thought. to
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
go,
not sure.
"We're not the
Yeah,
only
it was
one."
very rewarding. I think the most rewarding thing was meeting these people saying, they started where we started,
Yeah,
and
in a little room with an
that's
idea.
right. And we should be bold. We should put ourselves out there and do whatever we can, because at the end of the day, you can always go back and
Yeah.
And I often say, with our trip to Cambodia, it didn't have to be 500,000 meals. It might have been one meal, or it might have been one product, but the fact that we were making a difference, that's such an important thing to me, that everyone should really, everyone is able to do that in their own way.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose if there's one thing that I hope people get out of this show and from talking to all the people is that they should give it a go, that women can be brilliant at business, that we might do business maybe in a slightly different way, but you can always find someone that complements your skills, and there is no, I don't think, huge risk with trying something, because the worst thing that can happen is you'll be back where you were before you took the risk.
And I honestly believe women make incredible business leaders.
Yeah, I do too.
We have a skill set that really lends itself to being empathetic, to engaging, communicating well, and
it's very complementary with men. I mean, there's a lot of things that they can do that we can't do, and vice versa, and really that combination is kind of magic.
It is. I think James and I have learned so much from each other over the years.
Oh, well, that neatly leads me to
I
was thinking, I was just thinking, have you got any tips along that you could offer to other women that might be thinking about setting up a business, but also things that you've learned along the way that kind of still resonate with you? And I'm sure you've been asked this before, so there must be a few things that you can think of where you can offer something that will help somebody else.
Yeah, I think the research piece and just doing things really well rather than doing them fast, for me, that's a bit of a different mentality from the IT space.
I'm a very impulse, just do it kind of person, and I think it's really important that you do the research.
And I think for us too, we go through now supermarket reviews, and we've just been through one, and for us it's about and I said to my team, if we've done everything we can to ensure that we've presented quality, we've done the best we can in this pitch, then we can't do any more. So, the outcome, we can't influence the outcome, but what we can do is put forward quality and do things well and not have any regrets about it, know that we've just done the best we can do.
And not compromise. I think that's the whole thing, because, you start to compromise little bits here and there, and you start whittling away from your core product or your core brand.
That's right. And the compromise piece, I think over the years you can be pulled in different directions to make different decisions, but that's one thing James and I have been very big on, is that we will not compromise our quality.
So can you give me another example outside of the Coles one where you have had a conflict and you've gone, we're sticking to our guns?
Yeah, so even so much in developing new packaging,
Yes, I used to work in packaging. Tell me about
presented with concepts, but they just don't feel quite right. They're fantastic, but they're just not, and we could compromise, but then if we push people that little bit further, what we end up with is amazing. And
that you absolutely love. And of course you've got to think about, how many different products have you got now?
So we've got 50 now.
50?
Yes.
Right, so because when you sell into a supermarket as well, you've actually got to have a range now, don't you, so that it's got kind of shelf presence.
Yes, yeah.
So when you went into even Coles the first time, was it just a small range, or did you actually have to develop some stuff for them?
We developed with them a range of 5 products. So
right.
Initially it was 5, which was, it gave us a good presence on shelf.
Right, so and earlier you were saying that you had reached your target of 50 million in 2019, but it was a 2020 target, which I absolutely love. What's your new target? Have you created one?
We have. We created one at the end of last year.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big one. It's to be one of the most socially responsible companies in Australia.
Right.
And we have just declared that we will be going net carbon neutral by 2030, which is 20 years ahead of the Paris Agreement. So with that comes a whole lot of work, but we are pretty committed to it.
So how are you going to do it? What sort of things are you going to have to do to become completely
carbon
neutral?
Well, we're going through the process now of looking at everything we're doing, and I think continuing to look at organic food production, local production is a really important one.
What about logistics? How do you make that carbon neutral?
Yeah, well, it's about working with logistics providers that are also on the path, and
So what do they do? Do they plant trees for every trip they do, or I'm not quite sure how that works.
There's certain programs that are in place for all different businesses, but we're just assessing at the moment what that means. We've kind of put it out there.
And what if it means a huge amount of cost? Are you still going to just go, right, we're just going to do it? Or because often with those kind of compromises, there are big costs involved.
Look, over the years, this is a question that's come up all the time. So, early on, it was seeded that we didn't need to be an organic food producer that we could go into non-organic natural products, and yes, we could, but we felt so strongly that the quality is something we won't compromise. And
Right.
it meant a whole lot of cost, and it does. It means, our margins are pretty tight, but we've just got to work with that.
Yeah, and I guess the thing, if you've got tight margins, is you get the volume.
Yes.
And I guess that's the sort of way that you work
Yeah.
your way out of that one. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you in terms of, so if there was women, and I have met a lot of them, and we've had some of them on the show, that are thinking about getting into a food product business, what would you say to them?
I think do your research on what's out there, what's in the market,
Yeah.
and look at industries also that are possibly non-competing, non-food, at what they're doing well that's new and different and exciting. I think come back to really questioning and taking the time to reflect on why you're doing it, and come up with something that you're happy with, and don't compromise on quality, and test the market. So whether it's through focus groups with friends, with relatives.
But one of the tricks they do say is don't go too far down the friend route, because a lot of people who are friends and family don't want to break
true.
your heart by going, actually, I don't really like it.
So I think for us, going back to Paran Market, going down, meeting the boys there who just know the industry inside out.
Yeah, and there's farmers markets and things that if it's food products now.
And they gave us some good advice too, even as simply as if you're going to develop a product, look at ingredients that are readily available, because that will solve you a whole lot of headache down the track if it starts to take off. Organic
That's a really
supply
good idea,
of products is not always, it's very seasonal. So let's not try and create something that we know we can't scale later on.
Yeah, really good advice. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show. I've absolutely loved interviewing you, and I'm really excited to see what Whole Kids is going to do over the next while, particularly if now you're going to attack climate change. I think that's fantastic. But have you got any big, audacious, hairy goal that you're trying to do in terms of quantities or
I think
distribution?
coming back from the US, I've realised that Whole Kids really can be a force for affecting for good, and also a leader in children's health globally. So we certainly want to extend what we're doing beyond Australia to international markets.
So are you going to go into America? Is that one of the plans?
Well, we're having discussions at the moment. So,
Right.
but the product was really well received, and I think again, when we talk to Whole Foods and other businesses about our story, that it really resonates. So yes, so we've got a lot of work to do, but it's a really exciting time.
I'm just so thrilled for you. So thank you for taking the time to come
Thanks,
and talk to
Jules.
us today. I think it's been really useful for people. I hope you've really enjoyed the show with Monica. She is brilliant. My name's Jules Brooke. I'm the founder of Handle Your Own PR, and I teach people how to do PR. So I have got my own business as well. And I hope you enjoyed the show, and that you'll come back next week and see our next guests talking about being amazing women in business.
This is Ticker, your new source for news.